Ethan returned to the village after Clara's visit, feeling happier and calmer. He realized how much Clara's friendship meant to him, and the importance of keeping their worlds connected. Ethan spent the following days sharing what he had learned with Samantha and the villagers, teaching them about Clara's people and their peaceful ways. The villagers slowly accepted Clara's people, becoming curious instead of fearful. Samantha especially listened closely, fascinated by Ethan's descriptions of the underwater world and Clara's gentle nature. One evening, Ethan and Samantha sat together near the beach, looking out at the ocean. Samantha looked thoughtful, finally turning toward Ethan. "Do you think Clara's people would allow others to visit them?" Samantha asked softly. Ethan considered carefully before answering. "If they trust you, yes. Clara's people value kindness and respect. If they sense your sincerity, they will welcome you." Samantha nodded thoughtfully. "I would like to meet Clara someday," she said gently. "She sounds very special." Ethan smiled warmly, feeling hopeful. "She is, and I think she would like you." The next morning, Ethan returned to the hidden bay, hoping Clara might visit again soon. As he walked along the shore, he noticed something unusual in the water. Moving closer, he saw Clara swimming toward him, accompanied by another from her people. Ethan waited calmly by the water's edge, greeting Clara warmly as she emerged. "Ethan," Clara smiled happily, taking his hand gently. "This is Leah, my closest friend. She wished to meet you." Leah stepped forward carefully, smiling shyly at Ethan. "Clara speaks highly of you," she said softly. "Thank you for protecting and helping her." "It was my honor," Ethan replied sincerely, feeling pleased by Leah's kindness. Clara explained that her people wanted to meet some villagers, hoping to strengthen their connection. Ethan felt excited about this possibility, quickly agreeing to arrange a meeting. "I'll speak with Samantha," Ethan promised. "She has shown great interest and respect." Clara smiled, clearly pleased. "Then we'll return soon." That afternoon, Ethan discussed a meeting with Samantha. She eagerly agreed, feeling honored by Clara's invitation. Ethan carefully explained how to behave respectfully, ensuring the meeting would be peaceful. A few days later, Ethan and Samantha waited at the hidden bay. Clara and Leah arrived, greeting them warmly. Samantha felt amazed meeting Clara in person, quickly understanding Ethan's admiration. "Welcome," Clara spoke gently, smiling warmly at Samantha. "Ethan has told me much about you." "And Ethan has told me much about you," Samantha replied sincerely, smiling gently. "Thank you for trusting us." Clara led them carefully into the water, guiding Samantha gently as they moved toward the underwater cave. Samantha marveled at the beauty around them, amazed by the glowing coral, colorful fish, and peaceful atmosphere. Inside the cave, Clara introduced Samantha to her mother and others from her community. Samantha carefully expressed her respect and interest, asking questions and listening carefully. Clara's people quickly sensed her genuine kindness. Feeling comfortable with her presence. As the meeting ended, Clara's mother spoke gently to Samantha. "You are always welcome here. Tell your people we desire peace and understanding." Samantha nodded gratefully. "I promise to share your message." Ethan felt deep joy witnessing this moment, seeing his friends from different worlds connecting peacefully. He realized how much they could learn from each other through kindness and respect. Over the following days, the villagers slowly visited Clara's people in small groups, guided by Ethan and Samantha. Each meeting increased understanding and friendship between the two groups. Clara often accompanied Ethan during these visits, their bond growing stronger each day. One evening, as they sat together by the water, Clara quietly spoke to Ethan. "Our worlds are changing, Ethan. You made this possible." "No," Ethan gently corrected, smiling warmly. "We made this possible together." Clara smiled softly, feeling deeply connected to Ethan. "Will you always be part of my life?" she asked softly. Ethan squeezed her hand gently, his eyes filled with warmth. "Always, Clara. Nothing can break the bond we share." Clara leaned her head gently on Ethan's shoulder, feeling deeply comforted by his presence. They sat quietly, listening to the gentle waves, enjoying their peaceful moment together. As weeks passed, both communities learned more from each other. Clara's people taught the villagers how to protect the ocean, sharing their deep knowledge about marine life and ecosystems. The villagers showed Clara's people the best of human life, including art, music, and simple joys. Ethan felt proud seeing the harmony grow between their worlds. Clara was happier too, knowing she could now freely visit both her home and Ethan's village without fear. One bright morning, Ethan and Clara walked along the shore together. Clara paused, looking thoughtfully at Ethan. "Ethan, do you ever wish you could live underwater with us?" Clara asked softly. Ethan considered deeply, smiling gently at Clara. "Your world is beautiful, and I love visiting. But my place is here, helping our world stay connected." Clara nodded understandingly, smiling warmly. "You are right. You are the bridge between us." Ethan squeezed her hand reassuringly, feeling deeply happy about his role. "And you are the reason this connection happened," he replied sincerely. As they walked further along the beach, they spotted Samantha and Leah chatting happily nearby. Clara smiled brightly, pleased by the friendships growing around them. "Our worlds have found harmony," Clara said softly, her voice filled with joy. "Yes," Ethan agreed warmly. "And our friendship made it possible." Clara leaned closer to Ethan, feeling deeply grateful. "You taught me that kindness and trust can overcome fear and misunderstanding. Thank you, Ethan." "Thank you, Clara." Ethan replied gently. "You taught me about courage and peace." Together, they watched the sunrise, feeling deep happiness and peace. They knew their bond had changed both their lives forever, creating lasting friendship and unity between their two worlds. Days passed quietly after the meeting with the villagers. Clara and Ethan felt safer now, knowing they had the acceptance of those around them. Ethan noticed Clara becoming stronger each day as she spent more time in the ocean, regaining her health and energy. One quiet afternoon, Clara swam near the shore, gracefully moving through the water. Ethan watched her from the beach, smiling at her happiness. Suddenly, Clara stopped, staring deeply into the sea. Ethan immediately noticed her seriousness and moved quickly to her side. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked softly, seeing worry in her eyes. "My people," Clara said quietly. "They are close. I can feel them." Ethan felt a mix of joy and sadness hearing this news. "Do you want to find them?" Clara nodded slowly, her expression uncertain. "I want to see them, but I am afraid. What if they don't accept me now?" "They'll understand," Ethan assured her gently. "You belong with them. They'll welcome you back." Clara looked deeply into Ethan's eyes, feeling comforted by his reassurance. "Will you come with me?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled warmly, nodding without hesitation. "Of course." The next morning, Clara guided Ethan along the shore to a hidden underwater cave she sensed was near. Clara felt nervous but determined. Ethan stayed close, supporting her silently. As they reached the water's edge, Clara took Ethan's hand gently. "Stay close to me," she said softly. Her eyes filled with trust. Clara led Ethan into the water, gently guiding him deeper into the hidden underwater cave. Surprisingly, Ethan found he could breathe easily inside the cave, surrounded by a strange, glowing light. He stared around in wonder, amazed by the underwater beauty. Soon, figures appeared from deeper within the cave. Ethan felt Clara's hand tremble slightly in his own. "Clara," a soft voice spoke gently from the shadows. A woman, clearly from Clara's people, emerged slowly. Her hair was silver like Clara's, and her eyes the same glowing green. "Mother," Clara whispered softly, her voice shaking with emotion. Clara's mother moved forward, embracing her daughter warmly. "We searched everywhere for you," she said lovingly. "We fear we lost you." "I was safe," Clara said softly, turning toward Ethan. "With gratitude. Ethan saved me." Clara's mother turned gently toward Ethan, studying him closely. Ethan felt nervous, but stood bravely. Clara's mother finally smiled warmly. "Thank you, Ethan," she said gently. "You saved my daughter. We are forever grateful." "It was my honor," Ethan replied sincerely. Feeling deeply relieved, Clara's people slowly emerged from the cave, surrounding Clara with warmth and joy. They listened closely as Clara shared her story of kindness and bravery from Ethan and the humans who had eventually accepted her daughter. Ethan felt a deep happiness seeing Clara reunited with her people. But he also felt sadness, knowing their time together was ending. After some time, Clara approached Ethan quietly, sensing his sadness. "You're upset," she said softly. Ethan looked down, struggling to hide his feelings. "I'm happy you're home," he admitted, "but I'll miss you deeply." Clara gently touched his hand, her eyes filled with warmth. "We will always be friends, Ethan. Our worlds are connected now because of your kindness." "I hope our people can always remember this connection," Ethan said softly, looking into Clara's eyes. Clara nodded seriously. "I will always speak of your kindness and bravery. My people will learn from our friendship." Clara's mother approached again, hearing their conversation. "Ethan," she spoke gently, "we invite you to stay with us, to learn and share your world with ours." Ethan felt deeply moved by the offer but hesitated, thinking about his own home. Finally, he nodded with gratitude. "I would be honored." For several days, Ethan lived among Clara's people, exploring their underwater home and learning their customs. Clara taught him how to move gracefully underwater and to communicate using their gentle language of song and gestures. Ethan adapted quickly, enjoying the peaceful beauty of Clara's world. But eventually, Ethan knew he had to return home. Clara understood, though she felt sadness. "You will always be welcome here," Clara promised gently. "And you on land?" Ethan replied warmly. "You have friends there now." Clara smiled softly, knowing his words were true. Ethan prepared to return, carrying the memories of his time with Clara's people. They accompanied him back to the shore. Saying their gentle farewells. Once back on land, Ethan felt strange without Clara beside him. He returned to the village, where Samantha and others warmly greeted him. Eager to hear his stories. Ethan spoke carefully, describing the beauty and kindness of Clara's people. The villagers listened, amazed and respectful. Ethan's words changed how the villagers saw the ocean and the beings who lived beneath the waves. As days passed, Ethan continued visiting the hidden bay, always hoping to see Clara again. One peaceful afternoon, while Ethan walked along the shore, he saw Clara sitting quietly on a rock near the water, smiling gently at him. "Clara," Ethan said joyfully, quickly moving to her side. "Ethan," Clara replied warmly, taking his hand softly. "I wanted to visit you. I missed our talks." Ethan smiled brightly, feeling deeply happy to see her again. They sat together, sharing stories and dreams for the future. "Our worlds can coexist peacefully," Clara said hopefully. "We proved it." "Yes," Ethan agreed gently, looking into her eyes. "Our friendship showed that kindness and understanding can overcome fear." Clara leaned closer, her eyes filled with deep trust and gratitude. "Thank you, Ethan, for everything." "Thank you, Clara," Ethan replied softly, squeezing her hand gently, "for trusting me and sharing your world." They sat quietly together, watching the gentle waves and feeling a deep sense of peace. Their friendship had changed both their worlds forever, bringing hope for a future where humans and Clara's people could live in harmony, united by trust, kindness, and understanding. The days in the hidden bay passed peacefully. Clara and Ethan found comfort in their safe haven. Clara spent time swimming, gaining strength from the ocean, while Ethan learned more from her about the beautiful world beneath the waves. Ethan felt deeply amazed whenever Clara shared stories of her life underwater. She told him about glowing coral cities, enormous gentle creatures who traveled the deep oceans, and how her people communicated through gentle songs and movements. Each story made Ethan more curious and respectful of her world. One sunny afternoon, Clara decided to show Ethan something special. Gently taking his hand, she led him to the shallow water at the bay's edge. "Do you trust me, Ethan?" she asked softly. "Completely," Ethan replied, looking deeply into her eyes. Clara smiled warmly, reassured. "Then let me show you." Clara gently guided Ethan into the water until it reached their waists. She softly hummed, her voice like beautiful music. Soon, small, colorful fish and even some curious sea turtles appeared around them. Ethan watched in, all amazed by Clara's ability to communicate with marine life. The sea creatures swam happily around them, clearly feeling safe in Clara's presence. "They know you're gentle," Clara said, smiling softly. "Only because you trust me," Ethan replied kindly, feeling deeply touched. As days went by, Clara continued, teaching Ethan more about her world. Ethan also shared stories about human life, both good and bad. Clara listened carefully, wanting to understand humans better. However, their peaceful days suddenly changed one morning. While gathering fruits from nearby trees, Ethan noticed footprints close to the edge of the forest. He felt a sense of dread. "Someone found us," Ethan warned Clara gently when he returned to the bay. Clara's eyes filled with worry. "What should?" "We do? We have to be careful," Ethan answered softly. "But we can't stay here. It's no longer safe." Sadly, they packed their few belongings once again. Ethan felt deeply responsible for Clara's safety, knowing he had to find somewhere even safer. "There's another hidden spot further north," Ethan explained. "It's more isolated." Clara nodded quietly, trusting Ethan completely. "Lead the way," she said softly. Their journey was difficult and slow, traveling carefully along the coastline. The terrain became rougher, with steep cliffs and rocky paths. Clara's strength began to fade without easy access to water. Ethan noticed her struggle, and his concern grew. One evening, as they rested by a small, rocky beach, Clara sat down weakly. Ethan quickly moved beside her, gently supporting her. "Are you all right, Clara?" Ethan asked softly, worry clear in his eyes. Clara nodded weakly. "I just need water." Ethan quickly gathered seawater in his hands, carefully pouring it over her arms and face. Clara sighed softly, feeling a bit better. "We need to find water more often," Ethan said gently, determined to keep Clara safe. That night, Clara slept deeply, exhausted from their journey. Ethan stayed awake, carefully watching over her. He felt deeply protective, knowing Clara depended on him. By morning, Clara seemed slightly better. Ethan encouraged her gently, promising they were near their destination. Clara bravely continued onward, trusting Ethan's words. Finally, they arrived at another secluded cove, hidden by towering cliffs. The water here was clear, calm, and filled with vibrant sea life. Clara immediately felt the water's healing powers, regaining her strength quickly. "This place is perfect," Clara said gratefully, smiling warmly at Ethan. Ethan sighed deeply, relieved to see her healthy again. "I'm glad you're safe," he said sincerely. In their new hidden place, Clara explored the underwater wonders, always returning to Ethan with amazing stories. Ethan listened carefully, feeling closer to Clara every day. One afternoon, while Clara swam nearby, Ethan noticed a small boat approaching from afar. Alarmed, he quickly called Clara back to shore. "Someone's coming," Ethan warned her quietly. Clara watched nervously as the boat moved closer. Ethan stood protectively in front of Clara, prepared to defend her. But as the boat approached, he recognized Samantha aboard. Samantha waved carefully, signaling peace. Ethan relaxed slightly, but remained cautious. When the boat reached the shore, Samantha stepped out slowly. Her eyes widened when she saw Clara clearly, amazed by her gentle beauty. "Ethan, Clara," Samantha began softly, "I came to warn you. The villagers know you are nearby. They plan to search everywhere." Ethan's heart sank with worry. "We can't keep running," he said softly, looking at Clara. "We have to find a better solution." Clara nodded bravely, understanding Ethan's determination. "What should we do?" Ethan thought deeply, looking between Clara and Samantha. "We need the villagers to understand Clara isn't dangerous," he said finally. "Maybe if they meet her, they'll see how gentle she is." Samantha suggested carefully. Clara looked nervously. Ethan but nodded slowly. "I will try," she agreed softly. Trusting Ethan's plan, they carefully prepared for the meeting, choosing a neutral spot near the village. Ethan assured Clara she would be safe, promising to protect her. The next day, Samantha brought the villagers to the chosen meeting place. Henry led the villagers, his expression serious and doubtful. Ethan stood protectively beside Clara, who held his hand tightly for comfort. "She is not a threat," Ethan spoke clearly and calmly. "Clara is gentle and kind. She only wants peace." Clara stepped forward slowly, looking carefully at the villagers. "I mean no harm," she said softly. "I only wish to return to my people." The villagers listened closely, still unsure. Samantha stepped forward bravely. "She is peaceful. I have seen it myself." Henry frowned but finally sighed deeply. "We only want safety," he said gruffly. "Can we trust you?" Clara nodded gently. "Yes, I promise." The villagers slowly seemed convinced, relaxing slightly. Clara felt relieved, grateful for their acceptance. "Then you can stay until you're ready to return home," Henry said finally, nodding carefully. Ethan smiled warmly at Clara, proud of her bravery. Clara felt deeply grateful for Ethan's support and trust. As the villagers left, Ethan and Clara felt hopeful. Their bond was stronger now, tested by difficulties but built on trust and kindness. They both knew challenges remained ahead, but now they faced the future with greater confidence and hope, knowing they had made an important step toward peace and understanding between their worlds. The early morning sunlight softly filtered through the tall trees, waking Ethan gently. Clara was already awake, quietly sitting beside the shelter. She seemed lost in thought, her green eyes staring at the distant glimpses of the ocean visible between the leaves. "Did you sleep well?" Ethan asked softly, joining her. Clara turned to him with a gentle smile, nodding slowly. "Yes, thank you. It's peaceful here." Ethan smiled warmly, relieved to see her calm. "I'm glad you feel safe," he said gently. He knew Clara had been through a lot, and he wanted her to feel protected. As days went by, Clara and Ethan made their hidden home in the forest comfortable. Clara quickly learned to identify edible plants, while Ethan built a stronger shelter. They worked well together, trusting and supporting each other. Clara often spent time exploring their surroundings. One day, while Ethan gathered firewood, Clara wandered toward a nearby stream. The water was clear and cool, flowing softly over smooth stones. Clara knelt by the stream, touching the water lightly with her fingers. As soon as she touched it, she felt an immediate connection. She closed her eyes, allowing herself to sense the water deeply. Soon, small fish appeared, gathering around her fingers without fear. Clara softly hummed, speaking gently in her musical language. The fish responded, swimming gracefully around her hand. Ethan returned, amazed by what he saw. He quietly stood back, watching Clara's gentle interaction with nature. Clara felt Ethan's presence and turned to smile warmly at him. "They understand you?" Ethan said, his voice filled with wonder. "Yes," Clara answered softly. "I have always spoken to the creatures of the water. They are friends." Ethan felt even closer to Clara now. He was deeply impressed by her gentle abilities and kindness toward all living things. That evening, as they prepared their simple meal, Clara became quiet and thoughtful again. Ethan noticed her quietness and gently asked, "What's wrong, Clara?" Clara looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with worry. "I feel danger. Humans are searching for us." Ethan nodded seriously, understanding Clara's fear. "We must be careful, but we are safe here for now." Clara felt comforted by Ethan's calm strength. She nodded slowly, trusting him completely. But the danger Clara felt soon became real. One afternoon, Ethan heard distant voices approaching through the forest. Quickly, he took Clara's hand. guiding her into deeper cover behind dense bush. The voices belonged to villagers, led by a man named Henry, who Ethan knew well. Henry had always been suspicious and quick to fear what he didn't understand. "We must find the strange woman," Henry insisted loudly. "She might harm us." Ethan and Clara stayed silent and hidden, hardly daring to breathe. The villagers searched around, but eventually left without finding them. Once safe, Ethan looked worriedly at Clara. "We must find a safer place," he said softly. Clara nodded seriously. "I understand." That night, Clara and Ethan quietly packed their belongings. They decided to move further along the coastline, where fewer people lived. The journey would be difficult, but necessary for their safety. Traveling mostly at night, they avoided the main paths, carefully moving through thick forests and rocky beaches. Clara grew stronger each day, though Ethan often noticed her eyes fill with sadness whenever they passed close to the sea. One night, they found shelter in a cave near the shore. Clara seemed drawn to the ocean, quietly staring at the waves, crashing gently on the rocks. Ethan joined her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I miss my home," Clara whispered softly, tears in her eyes. Ethan's heart ached seeing her sadness. "We will find a way," he promised gently. "I won't stop until you're home again." Clara looked at Ethan gratefully, her eyes filled with trust and hope. She knew Ethan would keep his promise. As they traveled further, Ethan noticed Clara's strength growing whenever she was close to the water. Understanding this, Ethan carefully planned their route along the coast, ensuring Clara stayed strong and healthy. One day, while walking along a hidden rocky shore, Clara suddenly paused. Her eyes widened, sensing something important. "Ethan, there's something special here," she whispered, excitement in her voice. Curious, Ethan followed her. Clara led him to a hidden, secluded bay, shielded by towering cliffs. The water here was calm and crystal clear, filled with colorful sea life. Clara eagerly stepped into the water, feeling instantly refreshed. Her energy returned quickly. Her smile bright and joyful. Ethan watched, delighted to see Clara so happy. He sat by the shore, smiling as she swam gracefully, moving freely through the water. "This place is perfect," Clara said joyfully, returning to Ethan's side. "The water is healing. We can stay here for a while," Ethan agreed, relieved to see Clara's strength return. Living by the hidden bay, Ethan and Clara found a sense of peace. Clara taught Ethan more about her underwater world, sharing beautiful stories and songs from beneath the waves. Ethan listened, fascinated and enchanted. One evening, Clara grew quiet again, her eyes deep with thought. "What is it, Clara?" Ethan gently asked. "Ethan, my people fear humans, but I wish they could know you. You're kind and brave, unlike the stories we tell." Ethan smiled softly, deeply touched by Clara's words. "Perhaps one day our people can understand each other better." Clara looked hopeful. "I wish for that day," she whispered softly. Under the gentle glow of the stars, Clara and Ethan quietly talked of peace and understanding between their worlds. The bond between them grew stronger, filled with trust and hope. They both knew challenges lay ahead, but they felt stronger together. Ethan was determined to help Clara return home safely, and Clara dreamed of bringing peace between their people. Their journey had brought them close, teaching them about trust, friendship, and the power of kindness. As they rested near the hidden bay, they felt ready to face whatever the future held, knowing they had each other. The morning sunlight streamed through the cabin windows, gently waking Ethan. He opened his eyes slowly, feeling a bit unsure if yesterday had been real or just a strange dream. But when he saw Clara sitting quietly near the window, staring at the distant ocean, he knew it was all real. "Good morning," Ethan greeted her softly. Rising from his bed, Clara turned to him with a gentle smile, her eyes calm and thoughtful. "Good morning, Ethan," she replied. Her voice stronger than the day before, Ethan moved toward the small kitchen, preparing breakfast. Clara watched with curiosity, her eyes following each movement closely. Ethan carefully explained everything. He did, showing her how humans prepared their meals. Clara absorbed every detail. Fascinated. After breakfast, Ethan took Clara outside. The air was fresh and crisp, and Clara breathed deeply, feeling stronger. Her blue skin seemed brighter in the sunlight, and her silver hair shone softly. Ethan led Clara down to the beach again, watching her carefully. She walked slowly at first, cautious about her footing on the soft sand. Ethan stayed close, ready to support her if she needed help. "How do you feel now?" Ethan asked kindly. "Better," Clara answered, looking gratefully at him. She paused near the edge of the water, her eyes filled with longing as she watched the gentle waves. Ethan noticed her sadness and gently asked, "Do you miss your home?" Clara nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving the water. "Very much. My people are there, under the waves." "Tell me about your people," Ethan encouraged softly. Sitting down on the sand beside her, Clara sat down next to Ethan, her gaze distant. "We live deep below. We have cities of coral and stone, glowing plants, and creatures who are our friends. We swim freely, talking to each other through songs." Ethan listened closely, amazed by her descriptions. "It sounds beautiful," he said. Sincerely, Clara smiled sadly. "It is, but humans have always frightened us. They have taken much from the ocean, hurting our home." "Not all humans," Ethan gently replied, his eyes serious and kind. "Some of us respect and care deeply for the ocean." Clara looked into Ethan's eyes, sensing the truth of his words. "Yes," she whispered softly, "you are different." As the days passed, Ethan taught Clara more about human life. He showed her how to cook simple meals, explained how people communicated through speaking and writing, and introduced her to things like music and art. Clara eagerly learned everything, asking questions and marveling at the wonders of Ethan's world. Clara also taught Ethan about her own world, describing her life under the waves in greater detail. She showed Ethan how she could communicate softly with the small sea creatures that gathered near the shore. Ethan watched in awe as small fish and crabs approached Clara without fear, responding to her gentle voice and movements. One evening, Samantha, a close friend of Ethan, arrived at the cabin unexpectedly. She had heard rumors from the local villagers about a strange woman staying with Ethan. Samantha knocked gently and stepped inside. She froze in shock when she saw Clara, her blue skin softly glowing in the dim light of the room. "Ethan," Samantha said quietly, her voice filled with surprise and worry. "Who is this?" Ethan stepped forward quickly, placing a protective hand gently on Clara's shoulder. "This is Clara," he explained calmly. "She's a friend, Samantha. Please don't be afraid." Clara looked nervously between Ethan and Samantha. Sensing Clara's discomfort, Ethan gently squeezed her shoulder, reassuring her silently. Samantha hesitated, studying Clara carefully. Finally, her eyes softened slightly. "The villagers are worried, Ethan. They talk of strange sightings on the beach. They fear she might be dangerous." "Clara is harmless," Ethan insisted gently but firmly. "She needs our help, Samantha." "She was stranded and weak when I found her." Samantha sighed deeply, looking worried but trusting Ethan. "I believe you, Ethan. But the others won't be so easily convinced." "Then we'll leave," Ethan said firmly. "I won't let anyone hurt Clara." Samantha nodded slowly, understanding Ethan's determination. "Be careful," she whispered. "I'll try to keep the villagers calm for as long as I can." "Thank you, Samantha," Ethan said gratefully. Once Samantha left, Ethan began preparing to leave the cabin. Clara watched quietly, understanding the seriousness of the situation. She felt guilty for causing Ethan trouble. "Ethan," Clara said softly, sadness in her voice, "I'm sorry." Ethan stopped packing, looking at her with kind eyes. "Don't be sorry, Clara. None of this is your fault. People just fear what they don't understand." Clara nodded slowly, accepting Ethan's words, though her heart still felt heavy. Ethan gently placed his hand on her shoulder again, comforting her. "We will be safe, I promise." They quickly gathered essential supplies and left the cabin quietly. walking deeper into the nearby coastal forest. Ethan knew of a small hidden clearing far from the village, where they would be safe. The forest was thick, filled with towering trees and dense bush. Ethan guided Clara carefully, helping her move smoothly through the unfamiliar terrain. Clara remained close, trusting Ethan completely. As they walked deeper into the forest, Clara began to sense the calmness of nature. The sound of the trees, whispering in the wind, the soft rustle of leaves under their feet, and the distant sound of the ocean created a peaceful feeling. Clara felt safer now, knowing Ethan was beside her. They finally reached the clearing, a quiet spot surrounded by trees. Ethan quickly set up a simple shelter, ensuring Clara was comfortable. Clara watched gratefully, amazed by his kindness and care. As night fell, Clara looked up at the stars shining brightly above. "The stars look different from here," she whispered softly. Ethan sat beside her, looking upward. "Yes, they're beautiful, aren't they?" Clara nodded, smiling gently. "Beautiful," she repeated softly, leaning closer to Ethan, feeling safe and protected. They sat quietly under the stars, feeling a deep bond growing between them. Ethan knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to keep Clara safe. Clara knew that for now her place was with Ethan, trusting him completely as they faced the unknown together. The morning sun shone warmly on Ethan as he walked along the beach. The sea breeze gently touched his face, and the waves softly washed over his bare feet. Ethan loved the quietness of early mornings. It was peaceful, and it gave him time to think clearly. Ethan had lived near the ocean for most of his life. He was a simple man who enjoyed the calmness and beauty of nature. He knew every rock, every bird, and every wave that came ashore. But this morning felt different. As he continued walking, he noticed something unusual in the distance. He stopped and squinted, trying to see clearly. Something was lying motionless near the waterline. His heart beat faster, wondering if someone was hurt or needed help. Ethan quickened his pace, walking swiftly toward the figure. As he drew closer, he realized it was not a regular person. His eyes widened in shock as he saw the strange color of her skin, a soft shade of blue, shining slightly in the sunlight. Her long silver hair was tangled and wet, spread out around her on the sand. Cautiously, Ethan approached. He knelt down beside her, looking closely. She looked peaceful, almost as if she were sleeping. Her strange beauty amazed him. Slowly and carefully, he reached out and gently touched her hand. In that instant, her eyes opened wide. They were a brilliant green, glowing softly, looking directly into Ethan's own. Startled, Ethan pulled his hand back quickly, but the woman's eyes were kind and filled with confusion rather than fear. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked softly, unsure if she understood him. She blinked slowly, as if trying to understand. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came out. "It's okay," Ethan reassured her gently. "You're safe now." He held out his hand. Again, carefully this time. The woman looked at his hand, hesitated, and then placed her cool, delicate fingers into his palm. Ethan gently helped her sit up. She seemed weak and struggled to remain steady. "Can you stand?" Ethan asked, his voice gentle and patient. She tried but quickly began to sway. Ethan supported her, putting an arm around her shoulders. He could feel her trembling, cold from lying on the wet sand. "You must be cold," he said kindly. "Let me help you." Ethan slowly guided her toward his small cabin nearby. She leaned heavily against him, her steps unsteady. He spoke softly to her. As they walked, hoping his voice might comfort her. Once inside, Ethan helped her sit by the fireplace. He quickly wrapped her in a warm blanket, watching as she stared in awe at the flames. Her eyes reflected the dancing firelight. Filled with wonder and curiosity, Ethan prepared some warm tea and offered it to her. She hesitated, looking carefully at the steaming cup. Gently, Ethan showed her how to drink it. Watching him closely, she slowly brought the cup to her lips, sipping cautiously. Her eyes widened again, clearly surprised by the warmth and taste. Good, Ethan smiled gently, nodding his encouragement. Good, she echoed softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. Her accent was unusual, almost musical. Ethan felt relief at hearing her speak. Do you understand me? Ethan asked slowly, making sure to speak clearly. She nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on his face. Yes, she whispered again. A little. My name is Ethan. He introduced himself slowly, pointing at his chest. He cated, carefully copying the sound. He smiled warmly, nodding his approval. What is your name? She paused, seeming to think deeply. Clara, she finally said. Clara, Ethan repeated warmly. It's a beautiful name. Clara smiled slightly, clearly pleased but still unsure. She seemed to trust Ethan, sensing his kindness. Where are you from, Clara? Ethan asked gently, curious but careful not to overwhelm. Her Clara hesitated, looking down at her hands. The ocean, she said softly, a sadness filling her eyes. Ethan sat quietly, absorbing her words. He had heard stories from sailors and fishermen about people who lived beneath the waves, but he had always thought they were just stories. Now, looking at Clara, he realized those stories might be true. You live under the water? Ethan asked gently, his voice filled with amazement. Clara nodded slowly, looking back at him. Yes, under the water. But how did you end up on the shore? Ethan asked softly, concerned for her. Storm, Clara whispered sadly. I lost my strength and woke up here. Ethan felt deep sympathy for Clara. He could see the loneliness and fear hidden behind her eyes. You're safe here with me, he reassured. Her again gently. Clara looked deeply into Ethan's eyes, and a gentle trust formed between them. She nodded slowly, accepting his kindness and feeling a bit stronger now. Ethan stayed with her, talking softly, teaching her simple words and things about his world. Clara listened carefully, repeating the words, trying hard to understand everything. As the day passed, Ethan felt a special connection with Clara. He wanted to protect her, to help her feel safe and welcome in a strange place. Clara felt comforted by Ethan's presence. Despite her fear of humans, she sensed he was different. They sat together, watching the sunset through the window. Clara's eyes sparkled with wonder, and Ethan found himself deeply moved by her gentle presence. He knew then that Clara was more than just a mysterious woman from the ocean. She was special, and her arrival was about to change his life forever.